You ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-Mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-Mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Let's try that again. There we go. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, 13th day of September, 2021. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. That will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. It also gives you access to the chat box so that you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. On the days you're out of the office, away from your desktop, there's a couple things you can do. Number one, you can point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live. There you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You just won't have access to the chat box. Also, we stream live each day on our YouTube channel, and it's easy to remember, youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we stream live each day during this broadcast, but we archive each and every daily show. Currently, we have over 1,800 daily live broadcasts archived there for your educational and viewing pleasure. With that, we'll open with a word of prayer, as we do. Before we dive in, let's take a moment and define prosperity. In fact, let's define the meaning of biblical prosperity. Prosperity is not about just attaining wealth or living a life of luxury. Biblical prosperity is about thriving as the person God created you to be. True prosperity is about living a life fully engaged with the principles laid out in the Bible. And prosperity is a very popular word today. Some preachers talk a lot about prosperity. Sometimes we refer to this as the prosperity gospel. I'll admit, in the mid to late 90s, when my wife and I found our way back from our lifetime of sowing wild oats and having crop failure after crop failure, we returned to the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, my grandmother. You know the one, the only one. And at the time, the whole biblical prosperity message was in full swing. And I got to tell you, it's seductive. Okay? Now, this prosperity gospel, it's basically the idea that God wants everyone to be in perfect health all the time, that sickness is always outside the will of God, and if you are sick, then you should just claim health and you will instantly be better. It also has the idea that God wants you to be very wealthy. But this is not what the Bible actually teaches. Now, what good father does not want their children to be blessed? But God is not going to bless you beyond your ability to manage the blessing. That's something, we have to be faithful in the little things before God decides to put us in charge over the big things. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want the pendulum to swing the other way either, because the Bible isn't saying that we should all live in poverty and have nothing. That was a thing for a very long time in Christianity, especially the early 1900s. Revival was in the air, and the preacher was supposed to be so poor that the members of the church would take turns feeding him and his family. I don't think that's biblical at all. So we have two extremes, and I think our goal here is to, just to really get a hold of the true meaning of biblical prosperity. The Bible is saying that God's definition of prosperity just might be different than our definition of it. Prosperity doesn't necessarily mean that everything is going easy and well. Prosperity means that you are in the will of God. Paul, about 5 years before he made his journey to Rome, wrote to the believers there and said, in Romans 1:10, one of the things I always pray for is the opportunity, God willing, to come at last to see you, for I long to visit you. The King James Version puts it this way, making request, if by any means now at length I might have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you, for I long to see you. Here's what Paul was saying to the believers in Rome. I want to come and see you, and I'm praying for a prosperous journey. Paul prayed for a prosperous journey to visit the believers in Rome, and he got that. Now, some might say, dude, there was a shipwreck, there was a storm. I think there was a snake bite in there. All true. However, he was in the will of God the entire time. And that's where you and I want to be, in the will of God. Heavenly Father, we thank you that your provision is not based on our efforts. We thank you and bless you that in this life you have already provided all that we can ask or need. Our prosperity, the provision that you've provided for us, is not based on our efforts, but on the inheritance given to us by the death of Jesus Christ. Thank you that your heart is always for us. Your promises toward us are yes and amen. We thank you that it is already done. And by our agreement with this truth, we speak for the manifestation of the inheritance of the saints to all those in need around the world. In your word in 2 Peter, you speak according as his divine law has given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness through the knowledge of him that has called us to glory and virtue. Father, it is your desire for us that we would experience prosperity in all that we put our hands to. Biblical prosperity. For there's a great need in this world. Lord, we desire to be in a position that we can give to every good work so that the kingdom may advance and lives can be transformed by your amazing love. And therefore, we speak forth prophetically promotions and business ideas. We declare divine connections and partnerships. We stir up the same creative spirit that made the heavens and the earth to bring forth new ideas and inventions for the betterment of this world so that we can be a blessing to many. Order our steps into the provision that you, God, have already granted us, your children. Bless us with prosperity and financial wisdom. Your word tells us in 3 John, Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Today, God, we release your Spirit to deliver these things into our hands. Let us walk in the provision of heaven and not be bound by the systems of this world. It is for this freedom that you have set us free. So, Lord, be our Savior from debts, burdens, and financial struggle. Set us free in our finances, just as you saved us from sin, death, and the grave. God, give us wisdom and joy that we can be good stewards over all that you deliver into our hands. Continue to advance the work of those that do good work. Help us to continue to provide for those in need, both spiritually and physically. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, happy Monday. All right. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. These would be the cash markets, the indices as they're called. Starting here at home in the U.S., currently the Dow is up 232 points. The NASDAQ is down 26. S&P 500 up 2.5. Make that 3. And the Russell 2000 up 11. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 60 cents, trading 70.32 last. Gold up $4.40, trading 17.9660 last. Silver down 9 cents, trading 23.80 last. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei added 65 points. The Shanghai gained 12, but the Hang Seng fell 392, which is a drop of 1.5%. In the European markets at the close, the FTSE posted a gain of 39 points, the DAX rose 91 points, and the CAC gained 13. No movers and no shakers. We have a mixed day in Asia. It was a green day in the UK. And it's a mixed Radio Monday here in the US of A, only due to the NASDAQ, which is in the red, not by much, 20 points. The Dow is solidly positive, up 232 points. But the S&P up only 5, and the Russell 2000 up just 11. So with that, we'll go to Michael, get a recap of everything that happened in the live training room this morning. I know there were some technical difficulties. I read about it in the discussion group in the Telegram chat. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael. He'll give us a recap of everything that happened, and then I'll be back and we'll go over the logic alerts, the concierge trade alerts, all that, and answers to your questions. Anytime throughout the broadcast that you have a question about anything, just put it in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer it for you.
All right. Good morning. Well, afternoon for me. Here we go. Let me just make sure you are looking at my charts. Yes, you are. All right. Here we go, guys. Good afternoon. Today is Monday, the 13th day of September, 2021. If you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, then just go to this page right here, eminitrainingschool.com. At eminitrainingschool.com, all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us your biggest training challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click that confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial, so you got to make sure you click on that confirmation link. All right. Spreadsheet. Now we had, as Dwayne just mentioned, we did have some technical difficulties for the first hour this morning. So we did kind of a start over at 10:40 this morning. And so those are the results that you're going to see in here. And I'll go through as many of the trade setups as I can see. But keep in mind, the only ones that we actually took that were live were after 10:40, and I'll point those out specifically to you. Now, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 13th day of September, 2021. Today we we made 6 ticks in crude and we made 10 ticks on the ES, put us at plus 185 on the morning session. Today it took 5 minutes and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $135 a contract. And we took a total of 6 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're at $3,040 a contract. That's over 8 trading days, averaging $380 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Now I've gotten the goal on 173 out of 176 possible days. Last Friday was a yellow day because, well, things just went wrong on Friday. But 173 out of 176 possible days. So on the year now, we're at $103,042. That's over 176 possible days, averaging $585 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Now, if you were to stop every time you got your goal for the day, including today, if you were to stop every time you got your goal for the day and you added 1 contract per month, today we were at 135 when we got our goal, and we'd be at 9 contracts. So that's 9 times whatever 135 is. It's 900, 1000, 1100, 7, 1200, 40 something bucks, for $1,245 or something like that. Or $1,215. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. But anyway, that's what you would have been this morning after 5 minutes. Okay. And so if you were to stop with when you got your goal for the day and you were to add 1 contract per month, you would have worked a total of 50.27 hours so far this year, and you'd be averaging $2,364 per hour. And as I said this morning, you really got to break that down to the minute, because this morning, you know, if you break it down to the minute, it'd be about $40 a minute, and or something like that. And this morning it would have been, you know, a couple $100 for the 5 minutes that you worked. Okay. So that said, let's get into the actual trades that did set up, didn't set up, and all that stuff. I'm just going to start off with gold. Okay, I'm going to go right back to the beginning of the morning session here in gold. Now it started off right here is 9:30. Okay, so there were no trades in here right at the open that you could have done. It pulled back. It gave bearish separation, but you weren't trading below the BBC at that time. So then it got really choppy and didn't really give anything until over here. If I drew a trend line, you'd see that this line right here, this bar right here, closed on the trend line, given a long opportunity. Then the slingshot was just all messed up, so you couldn't do anything. And then in here is where we started actually getting into it again. But again, we didn't really have any opportunity that we could take in here, so we didn't trade anything in gold today. Okay. Yeah, simulated or otherwise, I think. Well, I bet everybody saw it anyway. I did have some markups on the demo charts because I was running demo charts for the first hour this morning, but I had put them away, so I don't know where they are now. But anyway, on crude oil, let's see. It looks like there was a long right here. Now, this was not a bounce off the BBC type. This would have been a trend line trade right here. That's the trend line. So there was a long in here that would have been a break even, a momentum right here that would have been a break even. Then it moves all the way over here. I wouldn't have done anything with the slingshot the way that it was. All right, then we get into this area right in here. There was a short there that would have worked out just fine. A short here that would have worked out to a break even, and another break even short right here. It looks like. Then we finally started trading. This was at 10:40. Okay, so we got a break even on that, and on our trade right here on crude, we got a +6. Okay, then we had one more break even right there, and then during the break, there was one bounce off the BBC right here that worked out for about 6 or 8 ticks, and it looks like there was just one more right in here that worked out for about 6 or 8 ticks. Okay, and that was crude oil. Now on the ES, we'll scroll back to right at the beginning. Okay, back to right at the beginning. Here we go. Here the market's opened up right in here, giving a, yeah, this looks like a bounce off the BBC type short trade here that would have meandered for a while and then giving you a break even trade. There was a YBR trade right here that worked out pretty well. And I'm looking down here, we're going into a weekly trading zone. These are accurate weekly trading zones, I believe. And it went all the way down here, but really didn't give anything to go with. Came back up, went back into the zone, got back up above it. Looks like it gave a momentum long trade right through here. One here and one more right there. Back into the zone. And then there was something that happened here right at 10 o'clock. Something happened. You know, the market seemed to start moving pretty quick, but there really wasn't anything you could do with it. All right, then you see we had all this garbage right through here and here. Just can't trade it. The slingshot is just not giving you any opportunities in there. And then finally here around 10:40 is where we got back into it. And we picked up this first trade here. We picked up 6 ticks on that. All right. And that is where we got the goal for the day. Then we had a break-even trade right in there. More garbage. The slingshot wasn't letting you get into it. Then we had another trade in here that we were able to get into. We picked up 2 on the first one and 2 on the second one to put us at plus 10. Then we got through here, getting toward the end of the session. If you wanted to call this a trend, right here, there was a bounce off the BBC. Right here, that was also a trend line trade. It was really only a trend line trade because the cycle was the wrong color. That would have been a break-even trade had you gotten it. And it slowly ground up from there, really not giving anything. And then, let's see, during the rest of the break, there was a short right here, broken dynamic support. So there was a short right there that looks pretty good. And a bounce off the BBC right here. That would have been a break-even. And that's about it. All right. And that was the morning session. So it was a little mixed up today because we had technical issues first thing in the morning. It was like a carryover from Friday. We started out with the issues on Friday, and they were mixed between live and demo on Friday. And the same thing happened again this morning, mixed between live and demo this morning. So we were doing Ninja Trader stuff for a little while there. And that was working out okay as long as I could get the DOM to work the right way. And I was making all kinds of mistakes with the DOM and Ninja Trader. But anyway, today, as I said, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today's the 13th day of September 2021. Made 6 in crude and 10 on the ES. Put us at plus 185 on the morning session. And today it took 5 minutes and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up under $35 a contract, and we took a total of 6 trades. So on a month, now we're up $3,040. That's over 8 trading days, averaging $380 per contract per 2-hour trading day. On the year, we've now gotten our goal for the day on 173 out of 176 days. And that puts us at $103,042 a contract over 176 days, averaging $585 per contract per 2-hour trading day. All right, if you were to add 1 contract per month and stop when you got the goal for the day, you would have worked a total of 50.27 hours so far this year and averaged out $2,364 per hour. Okay, now if you have not taken the free trial yet and you want to take the free trial, go here to eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us the biggest training channel so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, you won't get the free trial. You got to make sure you click on that link, all right? All right, guys, and that's it. With that, we're going to pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready, take it away.
Yes, I am. I am ready.
Excellent.
And let's try that. And there we go. Okie doke. Recap of the recap.
Today, starting from where we started at 10:40, it took 5 minutes and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $135 a contract.
Good job. Now, I had to step away for a minute while you were doing the recap. But you had some technical glitches this morning.
Yeah, we did. We did, sadly. But we
Well,
were able to work them all out.
is everything working properly now?
It appears to be. Everything looks to be good right now.
Okay.
And it doesn't look like this morning was just limited to DT Pro either. Some people were reporting Ninja issues, and it looked like I had a couple of issues while I was playing with Ninja, though I had messed it up a couple of times. Sure.
So, could have been something at the exchange level.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, and it just reared its ugly head in different ways. The different
Gotcha.
IVs, seems like.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, good job there. Bumpy start to the week for Logic 247. We ended up with a great week last week. And so far this week, remember, the Logic 247 alerts, those are around the clock, 24/7, from Sunday night at 6 p.m. to Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. when the markets close. And alerts are issued in Logic 247 whenever opportunity presents itself. We've issued 13 alerts, still waiting on the outcome of 7. So we've had 6 actionable, of which 2 or 33% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, based on market structure and a very simple 3-step process that we teach all of our traders. Last week, the final tally for week 162, we had a total of 65 alerts. 5 never triggered. We had 1 carryover. So we had 59 actionable alerts, of which 7 or 12% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible using market structure and the simple 3-step process we teach all of our traders. Now, also, we still have our concierge trade alerts, our original alert service. Those come out shortly after the Globex Open. I don't know why I typed in 4:15. It should have been 6:15 p.m. Eastern. So, I guess I should just fix that now that I see it. There we go. Now, this is forward guidance for the entire session. Okay, so once an alert triggers, there is a great probability that it's going to trigger again, maybe again, maybe again. Last week we had some CTAs that triggered 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That's really not unusual. It happens. So as we go to the charts here in a minute, after we take a look at the headlines, I'll show you how you just draw a line at 44.77, and you draw a line here. Once this static report is published, if price starts trending up towards 44.77, that's bullish. So our strategy will look for opportunities to buy the market, to get long. It's also your heads up to start using what you've learned in the live training room to look for opportunities to get long, because if price is trending up towards the top number, that's bullish, and if it's trending down towards the bottom number, in this case 44.43, that's bearish. And so our strategy will look for opportunities to sell the market, and you'll use things you've learned in the live training room to yourself look for opportunities to sell the market or to be short. So if you want to grab a screenshot, there you go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we'll go over those individually here in just a few minutes. A couple of headlines we'll talk about. We'll start with the tech headlines today. A judge has ruled a massive blow against Apple's App Store. This happened Friday. Apple must allow app makers to monetize their apps without paying Apple. This is a conclusion to a months-long legal battle between Fortnite maker Epic Games and Apple. So this is huge news for app developers who create all kinds of applications that run on iOS, which is the Apple operating system. SpaceX is launching its first civilians into orbit this week. And here's the civilian crew. Now, the first one on the list is a billionaire. So I can't help but think about that 3-hour cruise. Let's see. Come right here and I'll tell a tale of a tragic trip that started on aboard this tiny ship. So we had the billionaire, or the millionaire. Back then it was millionaires. Now we got billionaires. The movie star, the professor, and Marianne, and of course our friend Gilligan. So let's see, who do we have on this journey? We got the billionaire. We have a physician assistant. I think that's a wise choice. I mean, you're going into space, take a doc along with you. An engineer and a scientist. So the physician assistant, the engineer, and the scientist, that makes good sense. The billionaire, I guess he's maybe just financing the whole trip, because as Thurston Howell III found on that deserted island, all those suitcases full of cash he had were basically worthless. The crew has been training for this 3-day trip. Gilligan and the skipper, they took a 3-hour trip, or it was supposed to be 3 hours. This is a 3-day trip. They've been training for the past 5 months to get ready. Elizabeth Holmes. I hope you've been following along with the podcast that I've shared in the Telegram Breeze channel. The defense wins the opening round. This is an incredibly risky trial. She could go away for 20 years. Now, most people in her shoes would take a plea deal because there's such a mountain of evidence against her. And she has angered so many important and extremely wealthy people. But Elizabeth Holmes decided, no, I'm going to let this be decided by a jury of my peers. I don't know that Elizabeth Holmes has any peers. But it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out. Writer Adam Lashinsky was at the court and found the defense offered a more compelling argument than the prosecution, presenting a sympathetic narrative about Holmes. Now, I don't know how many of you know who Svengali was. I'll educate you real quick in case you don't know. Now, Svengali was actually the name of a man, but it has become a part of the English language. It's in the dictionary. Just like back in the day, we would say we're going to go search for something on the internet. Well, now we say we're just going to Google it. And we don't ask for someone to hand us a tissue. We typically say, yeah, you got a Kleenex? That type of thing. Svengali is now in the dictionary, and the definition is not, the story of who this man was. He was first written about. It's a true story. George du Maurier, the book was written in 1894. George du Maurier Svengali, a man who seduced, dominated, and exploits a lady named Trilby, a young Irish girl, and makes her into a famous singer. But when you go to the dictionary and look up Svengali, a person who exercises a controlling or mesmeric influence on another person, especially for a sinister purpose. Well, not only did Elizabeth Holmes, the defendant, get herself pregnant awaiting trial, Some say that's a sympathy ploy. She's using, this is used so rarely. I think guilty by definition of insanity is used by reason of insanity. I think that's used more than the Svengali defense. But that is her claim that her boyfriend, Sonny, I can't remember his last name, got inside her head, and all the bad or wicked things that may come out in this trial, Sonny made her do it. The Svengali defense. Now, he's going to be tried after the completion of her trial. Originally, they were going to be tried together, but Elizabeth's attorneys fought to have it separated. And in case you haven't heard me talk about this, Elizabeth Holmes left Stanford, dropped out to start a company called Theranos, which supposedly was a little machine that with just a couple droplets of blood could diagnose you for many, many, many different types of diseases. And the word is that it was all a fraud and that the machine never actually did what it was supposed to do. And so she's now standing trial. She did not take a plea, and she could go away for 20 years. Mark Zuckerberg says WhatsApp is adding an extra layer of security after a ProPublica investigation found that moderators are able to view some users' messages. WhatsApp will now let you encrypt your chat backups on Google Drive and iCloud. Salesforce said it will help relocate employees who want to leave Texas after a restrictive abortion law took effect. The cloud computing company told staff it would assist any employees and their families who want to relocate over the state's reproductive laws. Google is being charged with underpaying thousands of international workers. The company violated labor laws around the world by underpaying thousands of its contract workers in different countries. I wonder if I can get past the paywall on this. Yeah, it looks like I can. Now, we know that Apple uses a lot of labor in China. A lot of our tennis shoe manufacturers, probably not what you call them anymore. I guess they're called kicks, or I don't know what you call them, tennis shoes. I still call them tennis shoes. Those $300 shoes that you see at the department store, they're made by somebody who, maybe makes $3 a day, and I think that's really stretching it. The tech giant's compliance department discovered the mistake, but chose not to immediately compensate the underpaid temporary staff, according to the reports, and instead only corrected rates for new employees in the hopes of avoiding legal, financial, and reputational damage. Alan Berry, a Google manager based in Ireland, feared that the dramatic pay increase would cause employees to connect the dots and give rise to a flurry of noise and frustration. I'm also not keen to invite the charge that we've allowed this situation to persist for so long that the correction required is significant. Pay parity labor laws in Europe and Asia require companies to pay equitable wages to full-time and temporary workers who perform similar workplace duties, a protocol that does not exist in the U.S. According to The Guardian, Google employs over 900 temporary workers throughout the UK, Ireland, India, Germany, the Netherlands, France, and Poland, all of which enforce local pay parity laws. Oh, and speaking of Google, if you own a business and if you use Google advertising, Google AdWords, the next time you get a phone call from someone with a foreign accent telling you that they're the account manager for your Google AdWords account, stop them in their tracks and ask them two things. Number one, is this call being recorded? And the answer needs to be yes. And then the second question is, do you actually work for Google? That's about when you'll hear the phone go click. Because in most cases, that they don't. Okay? I've had a couple of calls over the years from, a legitimate account manager in Google AdWords, but it's usually just sales companies who say it really fast and it makes it sound like they're a Google employee, and then they get in there and they help you, pretty up your ads to be more effective, and they of course get a commission out of that, which, if it worked, wouldn't be such a bad thing. But what I found over the years is that sometimes their suggestions puts me in a worse situation than I was already in. So, that was a freebie. Facebook's new smart glasses have already raised privacy concerns. A BuzzFeed reporter took the glasses for a spin and found it's pretty easy to secretly record bystanders, even though Facebook says that's against the rules. Amazon could pay the NFL $2.5 billion to stream Sunday ticket games. Reporters say Amazon is seen as the front-runner among bidders for the package, which DirecTV has owned for the past 27 years. DeepMind secretly planned to break away from its parent company, Google. Current and former employees said DeepMind feared Google might one day misuse its technology, and that executives worked to distance the AI firm from its owner, Google, for years. And insiders compiled a list of the most important venture capitalists in New York. Let's see who the top ones are, and if we recognize, hit the paywall. Yeah, not too surprised. All right, in other news, this is pretty important. North Korea successfully launched newly developed long-range cruise missiles over the weekend, according to Korea's Central News Agency. The report said the launch met Leader Kim's defense goals, hinting at the missile's possible nuclear capabilities. It was the country's first missile test in 6 months, escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. The development came as President Biden's nuclear envoy, Sung Kim, is scheduled to travel to Tokyo to meet with Japanese and South Korean officials. Kim said last month in South Korea that he was ready to meet with North Korean counterparts anywhere at any time to restart the stalled negotiations on curbing Pyongyang's nuclear program. Joe Manchin, Democratic senator from West Virginia, a critical moderate swing vote, said Sunday, that's yesterday, that he would not back the $3.5 trillion spending bill proposed by President Biden and his allies in Congress. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said, "Will not have my vote on $3.5 trillion." Manchin said on CNN's State of the Union, Manchin, who has proposed cutting the bill's cost in half, said there was no way Congress can reach a deal in time to meet House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's goal of passing the legislation by September 27th. Senator Bernie Sanders, who is writing the bill, said it is not acceptable to the White House, the overwhelming majority of Democratic caucus, or the American people that Manchin doesn't support the bill. So while we give the Afghan army or the Al-Qaeda folk, billions of dollars in weapons, our government may shut down because these guys can't get it together. The Surgeon General has publicly spoken and defended President Biden's vaccine requirements. The Taliban minister unveils gender-segregated education policy. This is almost positive. The Taliban's new government in Afghanistan will let women continue studying in universities, but only in gender-segregated classrooms. Women on campus will have to wear traditional Islamic dress, The announcement came a day after the Taliban raised its flag over the presidential palace in a sign that the new government was getting to work. Also on Sunday, Qatar's foreign minister reportedly arrived in the Afghan capital of Kabul. He is the highest level visitor since the Taliban last week unveiled its interim cabinet, which includes many Islamist stalwarts. This cabinet that we speak of, a lot of the detainees at Guantanamo, Gitmo, people who were traded for Bergdahl, who you may remember was the deserter. Barack Obama, in order to get the deserter who was sent to prison, when we got him back, he was exchanged for a number of high-level terrorists being held at Guantanamo. And now they're in the cabinet. They went from being in prison to being in the cabinet. So that doesn't sound good, does it? The latest polls before tomorrow's California recall election found that Governor Gavin Newsom was strongly favored to keep his job. Really? A survey released September 1st by the Public Policy Institute of California showed 58% of respondents backed Newsom, with 39% looking to replace him. As the possibility of a rout loomed, some of Newsom's Republican challengers began making baseless allegations that the election was going to be tainted by fraud. Former President Donald Trump said the election would be rigged, and Larry Elder, the leading GOP candidate, said he was concerned about ballot fraud. Well, reports started to come out yesterday that people tried to vote via early voting, I guess online somehow, however they've got it set up there, and it said, you've already voted. You can't vote twice. These are people who... And on a lighter note, the Americans still being held in Afghanistan will receive their mail-in ballots in time to cast. Haha, late night comedic joke, but it's not funny. A video has emerged of the Al-Qaeda leader who was believed to be dead. The Al-Qaeda leader, Ayman al-Zawahiri, who has been rumored dead for months, appeared in a video marking Saturday's 20th anniversary of the September 11 terrorist attacks. In the clip, he praised Al-Qaeda's attacks, including one in January that targeted Russian troops in Syria. He also mentioned the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan after 20 years of war, but said nothing about the Taliban's takeover in the country last month, raising questions about how recently the recording was made. In other words, he could still be dead. Tropical storm Nicholas is threatening the Gulf Coast with flooding. The New York City school year starts with no remote learning option. New York City public school students return to class today in what amounts to the biggest experiment yet for in-person learning during the coronavirus pandemic. Teachers are under a vaccine mandate requiring them to get their first doses no later than September 27th, with no test out option. The city has roughly 1 million students. The city's roughly 1 million students won't have to be vaccinated, except those participating in contact sports. But all students must wear masks. Unlike some school districts, New York City schools won't offer a remote learning option despite the Delta variant-fueled coronavirus surge. And Barrett says the Supreme Court justices aren't partisan hacks. The U.S. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett on Sunday pushed back against criticism of partisanship in the High Court. She said, "My goal today is to convince you that this court is not comprised of partisan hacks." She was speaking at a Sunday celebration of the 30th anniversary of the McConnell Center, which provides scholarship opportunities. She says we're doing everything just the way we're supposed to. Don't forget, we got this Roe v. Wade coming up in the fourth quarter this year. And that could change the face of America as we know it. It has the potential. All right, let's go to the charts. S&P 500 E-mini futures. Let's refresh this. We are on the Z contract now on all of the indices. S&P, Dow, Russell, and Q. Okay, here's the 50% Fibonacci retracement of the last leg up. Just when I was thinking about creating a new last leg up, this low took out this low. And so, no go. This remains the last leg up. All-time historic intraday high right here, 45.39.50 put in on September 3rd. So from the low that was put in August 19th to the all-time historic intraday high, this is the all-time historic closing high. Okay, we pulled back to the 24% fib and bounced. We pulled back to the 38% fib and bounced. We've now pulled back to the 50% fib and bounced. Now, as you can see, these two swing lows right here, I drew this little rectangle, labeled it potential support. That's above the 50% fib. So we came down to that potential support area and we bounced all the way back up to the BBC and then dropped all the way back down to the 50% fib. The 50% fib retracement is at 44.39 and the swing low here is 44.42 and a quarter. Fibs are an area. Okay. Now, for anyone that's new, this green line on the chart is called the BBC. Stands for bull, bear, cross. When prices above it, we're bullish and anticipate higher prices. When prices below it, we're bearish, anticipating lower prices. However, this year we've spent 90% of the time, or 95% of the time, above the BBC. So this doesn't really give you a good idea of what I'm saying, but when we go to the 30-minute chart, I'm going to make sure you understand this, because if you understand that simple thing, it won't make trading easy, but boy does it make it simple. So we've got a daily doji below the BBC. We've got red and falling overhead. This indicator is called the CFMA1. I refer to it as blue and climbing, red and falling. One is bullish, represents support. The other, red and falling, represents resistance. Okay. So if price were to come up above the BBC and even get above the step line and even get above the 24% fib, we would expect resistance. Currently, that resistance is up at 45.12, but the market would have to overcome a lot of obstacles first. The BBC, the step line, 24% fib. Oh, I left out the 38% fib. That would have to be overcome. The path of least resistance from where we stand right now on the daily chart is down to the 62% fib. And after we get a bounce there, if the bounce doesn't stick, then we're looking at a 100% Fibonacci retracement. From this low to this high, we've retraced 50% and bounced. Okay. Now, current price looks like 44.52, and the low of the session was 44.42. So far it's like about a 10-point bounce off the 50% fib. It's important to remember that just as you and I watch range charts and 5-minute charts and 30-minute charts, institutions, funds, the deep pocket traders, they watch daily and weekly and monthly charts. And so when we hit a fib on the daily chart, you can almost always expect a pretty decent reaction. So let's go to the 30-minute chart and see where we are. Now, the weekly trading zones that you see on this chart, these are last week zones. The weekly trading zones go out to our members Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. We've published the zones since December 14th of 2009. The vertical line separates Friday from today. This is the Sunday night open and now the Monday session. Okay. So we open here. We make a run right up to the weekly trading zone. Now on Sunday nights we're using last week's zones because the new zones don't get published till Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. And so price, we opened, we ran right up to the weekly trading zone. When we approach a weekly trading zone from below, we expect resistance, which we got. And when price finds resistance that it can't overcome, it turns around and goes to look for support, which it found at the weekly trading zone. When price drops to a weekly trading zone, we expect it to be good support until proven otherwise. Now, this was last week's lowest weekly trading zone. This zone was from the previous week. Important prices, important areas. Once we come across weekly trading zones at times that stay, in play for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes a month. So we bounced off of it Friday. We bounced off of it last night. Now that bounce sent us back up to the BBC, which we expect to be resistance until proven otherwise. And this is what otherwise looks like. Okay. We got above. And so once we're above the BBC, we're bullish. Okay. Which means we anticipate higher prices. Below the BBC, we're bearish. We anticipate lower prices. Now, anyone can look like a genius with a historic chart, but this is what really happened, okay? On this bullish cross over here, what happened? Price ran up 1, 2 zones. Bullish cross, we anticipate higher prices. What do we get? Higher prices. Bearish cross, okay? Price gets below the BBC. What do we expect? Lower prices. What do we get? Substantially lower prices. And then price got back above the BBC. And so what do we expect now? Higher prices. What do we get? Higher prices. And then when price couldn't get through this weekly trading zone, resistance, when the market finds resistance that it can't overcome, it turns around and goes to look for support. We get below the BBC, so now we anticipate lower prices, and we get a leg and a retracement and a leg right down to that weekly trading zone. And then, after we put in this double bottom here, price gets back above the BBC, and what do we expect? Higher prices. What do we get? Higher prices. And then price got back below the BBC where we anticipate lower prices. What do we get? Lower prices. Over and over, again and again, for over a decade. Okay, this isn't some flash in the pan. This isn't just some cherry-picked chart. This is just how price flows. It flows on a 1-minute chart the same way it does on a monthly chart. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. If you had gotten long here, would that have been a profitable trade? If you had gotten short here, would that have been a profitable trade? Long here, short here, long here, short here. It's not magic, it's math. And some might say math is a magical thing, so okay, I can go along with that. why anyone would not want to trade, why anyone would choose to trade without the benefit of this type of information, you may have heard me, I just scratched my head because it itched, but it is a head scratcher. I mean, it doesn't ever get easy. I don't care what all those websites and emails tell you, but it can be simple. We get above the BBC, boom. We get below, boom. We get above, boom. We below, boom. Don't know what else to say. Price is heading up to the BBC. What do we expect? Resistance until proven otherwise. We've also got a weekly trading zone. That's from last week, but still, we expect it to be good resistance until proven otherwise. Tomorrow, I'll have the new zones on my charts. Our traders again got them this morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. So when price rallies up to the BBC, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. When price rallies up to a weekly zone, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. Just like last night, we opened, ran up to the zone, ran down to the zone. This time we managed to get above the BBC, above the weekly zone, and we put in a swing high at 44.83. Now, the concierge trade alert. As you can see, it was 44.77. So from 77 to 83, the market made 6 points available at $50 a point. That's $300 per contract traded. If you've earned the right to trade 2 contracts, then it's $600. If you've earned the right to trade 3 contracts, it's $900. Okay? That's what the market made available. We just shine the light. Okay? We don't make any of this happen. We don't know what's going to happen next. However, our strategy, our proprietary methodology, and our indicators help us know what the next high probability move is. And after over 8,200 and something alerts that we've published in the Logic channel over the last 163 weeks, we know that 20% of the time the market is going to do something other than the next high probability thing. And we know that there's nothing we can do about it. So we just accept it and look for the next window of opportunity. Okay? Now, price behaves around the CTA much like it does around a weekly trading zone. Only 3 things happen at a weekly zone. The most likely is consolidation. Second most likely is rejection. That's when the 30-minute candle closes. The only thing left touching the zone is the wick. Okay. So there was some consolidation. And over here we had a slice. That's the third and least likely thing. Now, when the slice runs out of steam, what typically happens is it pulls back to the zone it sliced through, consolidates, and then continues in the direction of the slice. This time it didn't. 20% of the time, based on all the data we've compiled over the last 163 weeks, 20% of the time the market does not do the next high probability thing. Now I said if price pulls up to the BBC and the WTZ, that's resistance times 2. But there's no guarantee that it's going to pull up. The market looks a little heavy. So 44.50 to 44.48, that looks like a pretty good window of opportunity to me. So let me just scroll down. Alert number 8343. 8343. I'm doing alert number 8,343 right now. ESZ 21. Consider being short at 44.50. Initial target 44.48. That's the 2 points for the day. If that's your goal, is 2 points a day. Which honestly, it's really all you need. You just earn the right to add more contracts. And so from 50 to 48, the next weekly trading zone below 48 is going to be way down at 44.32, which is right here. But we know that there's potential support right here at 44.43. So that'll be the second target, 44.43. And then the weekly trading zone at 44.32/44.33. Okay, so I've put that in the channel. Now I've put this one in the channel. Okay. And so, you and I together, we just put out the next alert, number 8,343, S&P 500 E-mini futures, December contract. Consider being short, 44.50. Initial target, 44.48. Potential support at 44.43. Weekly trading zone, the final trade to target, 44.32/44.33. And you say, but you're printing a green candle. Yeah, we are. However, we're below the BBC. And so I never think of going along when I'm below the BBC. Not that you can't. That would be called a counter trend trade. And there's nothing wrong with a counter trend trade as long as you understand that it is in fact a counter trend trade. The trend is down. Got a high, got a lower high, got a lower high. It's the definition of a downtrend. And lower lows. Okay. All right. So that takes care of the S&P. Let's go to the Dow. CTA last night on the Dow was 34,720. The target was 34,760 because again on Sunday nights we're using the previous week zones. So that's 40 points at $5 a point. It's $200 per contract traded. Now we triggered it once, we got back below the trigger, triggered it twice, got back below the trigger, triggered it thrice, got back below the trigger, and even attempted another one. This one made it up from 20 to 58, 38 points. This last one only went 38 points at $5 a point. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triggers, 1 alert. 5 triggers, 1 alert. Not much more I can say about that. Price opened here, ran up towards the BBC, retraced, finally got back above the BBC. So now we're expecting higher prices. Ran right up to last week's weekly trading zone and spent a couple of hours consolidating there. Now, as a CFRN member, you should get the new zones on your chart first thing Monday morning. But keep the previous week's zones handy. You can color code them on your chart if you want, but it makes the chart look a little crowded. So whatever works best for you. But the first couple days of a new week, you should have the new zones on your chart, and last week's zones, you should have them somewhere, okay, whether it's on a notepad or color coded on your screen. All right, so moving on to the Russell. Now, on the Russell, Let's just double check here. On the Russell, the long side was 2242, not 2242.9. So let's fix that. 2242. Okay. And so we did trigger, and we put in a swing high at 2244. 40. So we got our 2 points. That was a little over $100 per contract traded. Okay. And then I'm assuming this is where the technical difficulties came in today, because I got no candles right there. Let me see what happens if I switch out my time frames. Maybe it'll fill itself in. Or not. Okay, the knots have it. So we only got one trigger on the CTA on the long side and only one on the short side. 22.19. Okay, this first one, 60 bucks, and then on the second trigger we drop down to 22.09, so that's 10 points, $50 a point, $500 per contract traded. In queue. Here's the long side, the short side. 15, 548, and 15, 419. Okay. All right, so right here we dropped to 15,406. 405.75, we'll call it 406. That's 13 points at $20 a point. $260 per contract traded. And then we got above the BBC, above the weekly zone. We triggered up at 548 and we put in a swing high at 557. 48 to 57, that's 9 times 20, it's $180 per contract traded. And we came back down. This time we dropped to 15,358. It says 57.50, so we'll call it 58. So 419 minus 358, that's 61 points, $20 a point, that's $1,200 per contract traded. Then price got back above the trigger, dropped again. This time it dropped to 346. 419 minus 346 equals 73 points at $20 a point, $1,460 per contract traded. And then on this next candle, okay, we closed here, we ran up. Did we get above 15? No, we did not. Okay, and so now we're potentially going to trigger again. Just keep in mind on this trigger, you've got red and falling, which is fine, that's what you want. But right here, this combination, this could be potential support. So if you trigger in at 419, you might want to consider taking profit at about 409, okay, before you run it. Now, if price trades through here, then you've got another nice window of opportunity here. But this is potential support because red and falling has now gotten directly below the current candle. Okay. Red and falling represents resistance. It's a call for lower prices until it works its way underneath price, because that's what it does on its way to becoming blue and climbing, which is bullish. Just as blue and climbing, as it gets directly above price, turns to red and falling. Okay. All right. That's all the indices, the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ. Here's crude oil. $70.15. Okay, the first trigger took us to $70.32. So $150 per contract traded. And we got back below the trigger. This trigger, not all triggers are created equal. See how you have red and falling here? I don't like to go long into red and falling because that represents resistance. Price overcame resistance and then it got back below the trigger again. So this was picture perfect. Not picture perfect. We're back to picture perfect because now we have blue and climbing. And so from 70.15 we run up to 70, 75, so it's about $600 per contract traded. Then we got back below the trigger here. And this time we ran all the way up to, so that's about $800 per contract traded. And now the dynamic has changed because we got red and falling overhead. So even if we were to dip below the trigger, we would be hesitant to trade long as long as we've got red and falling overhead. Okay. And we never triggered on the short side, but we had 1, 2, 3, 3, 4 good triggers on the long side. Gold. All right. Short side on gold. 1787. The swing low. 1784.4, we'll call it 1785. It's $200 per contract traded. And this one, the swing low, was $90 per contract traded. And we've not triggered on the long side. We're above the BBC. Price is pulling back to the BBC. We expect this to be good support until proven otherwise. And we'll look for a leg to the upside. Keeping in mind, if we do get that leg to the upside, we have potential resistance right there. On silver, we'll trigger on the long side, but on the short side, 2 pennies, $100, 23.73, down to 23.69. That's 4 pennies, $200 per contract traded. And then from 73 down to 70 and a half, 2.5 pennies. And then back above the trigger, down we go again. Back above the trigger. And then we make the full drop all the way to the weekly zone below. From 73 to 45. 2 pennies, $100. Now we're above the BBC. So instead of thinking about shorting, because we don't want to short it with blue and climbing on the screen, we start thinking about the long side. Something like 23.84, up to 23.86 to 23.89 to whatever the current weekly zone is up there. And there you have it. And here we are still sitting with that daily doji. This is bearish. If we end up closing the session today below the 50% fib, then when we open tonight for the Tuesday session, we most likely are headed for the 62% fib. This swing low here is potential support. And then after that, it's the 100% retracement. And if we take that out, then this would be the next logical spot for support. And the 24% fib of this entire move up that we've had, that's the shallowest possible fib retracement based on 14th century math. 39.83. 39.83, and we're trading 44.49. Now, you've got to know that at some point, this is how markets work. Whether it's the last leg up or the entire move, there's going to be a retracement. That's how the bull stays healthy. So whether it's this week or next month, we're going to get a 24% fib retracement of this entire move up. We may get a 38, we may get a 50, we may get 62. And I want to remind you that 1500 on the S&P was tested twice from below in 2000, 2007, but it's never been tested from above. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Go look at a big picture chart of the S&P. You'll see just how important 1500 is. It's never been tested from above. Am I forecasting the market's going to drop to 1500? No. I'm making an observation because I have a market truth that important prices, important areas are almost always tested. And I'm just observing, we've never tested 1500 from above. Twice from below in 2000, and then we had the dot-com bomb where the bottom fell out. Then in 2007, where we had the real estate crash and the bottom fell out even more, right? But as the market recovered and got above 1500, it never came back to test it from above. I know it sounds very ominous, but so what? Now, I'm not speaking from an investor's perspective. Of course, as an investor, we want the markets to just go higher. From a trader perspective, if this market, if the bottom does start to fall out and price starts to scream down, heading in the direction of 1500, and of course it'll find all kinds of places to find support and bounce, you know, if that were to happen. As a futures trader, you can make money in an up market or a down market. In fact, a lot of you Friday afternoon got to experience live in real time just how much money you could make in a quickly moving down market. We drew this window in on the show, and that baby filled. It took us right down to a weekly trading zone from the previous week. Then last night we rallied to the weekly zone, came back, tested that again. Now we've got like a triple bottom going here on the 30-minute chart. Where do we go from here? Well, price is looking heavy. That alert that you and I just put together and posted in the channel was to be short 44.50 with an initial target of 44.48, and the low of this candle is 44.50. 48.5. So we need to drop 2 more ticks. This thing drops 2 more ticks, then the first target will be reached. On all of the alerts, the initial target, that gives you your $100 per contract per day. And then you have often a second, a third, a fourth target. On a short, the second target is labeled potential support. The final trade to target is always the weekly trading zone below on a short, the weekly trading zone above on a long. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. Okay. On Friday, we talked about what God has promised you and how and why you should stand on his promises. Today, we're going to talk about building others up. It's an important part of being a Christian, being a believer. I've mentioned before that, in so many of these trading rooms and forums and message boards, people can be so mean. And they love nothing better than to find a guy who's down on his luck. Boy, they kick him till his head explodes. It's horrible. That's what makes our forum, our discussion group, so much different. People edify one another. We don't get jealous of someone else's success. We celebrate their success. We ask them, man, show me what were you thinking? And our traders are always happy to help the new guy. It's not a competition. Well, the point is we're all on the same team. So we're all working together to build one another up. Each part of the body has its function, but Jesus is always the head of the body. So part 1, building others up. I read out of Ephesians 4:29. Don't use foul or abusive language. You won't find that in our discussion groups. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. The Apostle Paul wrote Ephesians 4:29. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. Now, think of the people that you enjoy spending the most time with. How would you describe them? Now, these are the people that you like to hang out with. When they're not around, you miss them. Are they bitter? Are they grumpy? Are they negative? Of course not. They're celebrators, not complainers. They're passionate about life. As you live this day, realize that everyone you meet, you will leave better off, worse off, or unaffected. Just like price. Price can only do one of 3 things: go up, go down, go sideways. Every person you come in contact with today, you will either leave them better off, worse off, or unaffected. The way to build others up is to see them as opportunities instead of obstacles or obligations. John Maxwell writes, one of the best things you can do for people, which also attracts them to you, is to expect the best of them. John says he calls it putting a 10 on everyone's head. It helps others think more highly of themselves, and at the same time, it also helps you. A survey of 100 self-made millionaires showed only one common denominator. These highly successful men and women routinely looked for the best in people. Benjamin Disraeli, one of Britain's finest prime ministers, put it this way: the greatest good you can do for another is not just to share your riches, but to reveal to him his own. And you do that by appreciating, encouraging, and helping others to reach their potential. Napoleon describes leaders as dealers in hope. He understood that hope is one of the greatest of all possessions. If you can be the person who bestows that gift on others, they'll not only be attracted to you, they'll be forever grateful. And that's our good word for the day. And as you can see, we've hit that initial target, and the second target now is down here at 44, 43. That could have been your 2 points for the day, and for those of you that traded it, I'm glad you did. That bell's for you. If you want to become a part of the CFRN family, a lifetime member, that means you have access to everything we do, everything we've ever done, the stuff we're going to do in the future, but you never have to pay another dime. There's no weekly, annual, monthly fees. You never have to spend another penny with us again. One money, one time. You get your passport by going to eminifuturestrading.com. If you have any questions, call Valerie at 949-42-EMINI or send an email to support@cfrn.net. Now, the passport provides you with access to the live training room every day. Every trading day, we have a live instructor putting on and taking off trades for 2 hours and answering all of your questions. He's teaching you how to trade. He's teaching you our strategy. He's teaching you how to read our indicators. And he's answering your questions as he trades. It's 2 hours of group training every day. Then we do these 2 hours in the afternoon where we recap everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. With a passport, you have unlimited access to one-on-one mentoring. You learn our methodology. You own our indicators. You have access to the Logic 247 around-the-clock alerts and the concierge trade alerts and much more for life. Remember, 9 out of 10 new traders fail. Why? Because they don't have a teacher. If you wanted to become an electrician, a plumber, or a brain surgeon, the first thing you would think of is, okay, where am I going to go to school? Who am I going to find to teach me how to do this? Yet 9 out of 10 traders just try to, go it on their own. And when that doesn't work, they buy videos or they buy books. And I have nothing against books and videos. I'm always recommending the book, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, right? And we have thousands of videos ourselves. And those are wonderful tools, but they're not a replacement for a live instructor. How many times have you been reading a trading book and you got to a point where you said, oh, I wish I could ask the author what he means by this? Or you're watching some kind of training video that you've bought and you're like, oh, I wish I could ask the guy who's making this video what he meant by what he just said or did. That's why we train the way we do, in a live environment, in live markets in real time. Trading and answering questions. Trading and answering questions. You have 2 hours of that every trading day. That's 10 hours a week. Plus 2 hours in the afternoon, that's another 10 hours. Plus the Thursday night members only workshop. It's another 2 hours. But if you're still missing something somewhere, some way, somehow, all you got to do is book a private one-on-one mentoring session. As a passport holder, you have unlimited access, lifetime access to one-on-one mentoring. Your journey there begins at eminifuturestrading.com. eminifuturestrading.com. Go there, get your passport today. Valerie will make sure that you have all the stuff you need to be in the channel trading with us tonight when the Globex session opens, and so that you can be in the room tomorrow morning trading in sim as Michael teaches you our methodology and our strategy. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.